So, did we already introduce ourselves? Should we do it again for real? Who's gonna start? Peter.
Hi, I'm Peter Chan, and I'm the lead artist.
You drew that painting right there, right?
Yes, I did, yes.
Okay.
I'm Larry Ahern, lead animator.
You killed that bird.
And I think that was a Leela scene.
Oh, okay.
She's the animal killer.
I like the mustache trees in that last shot, Peter. I'm Tim Schafer, co-project leader of this lovely game.
And I am Dave Grossman, other project leader and designer and writer along with Tim of this lovely game.
That should have been our titles, co and other.
Co and other, yeah.
Clint Bajakian, one of the composers.
Peter McConnell, one of the composers.
Nice. The game has begun, you guys. Okay, so we saw the lovely, what's the name of that classical music that plays during the opening voice?
Rossini, William Tell Overture. It's the quiet part of the William Tell Overture.
There's two classical pieces that mean morning in cartoons.
Yes, there's that one, and then there's...
Bum, 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 bum.
And the other one is... That's from... Where is that from?
I don't remember.
It might be Peer Gynt or something like. That's a good guess.
It's not another place in the Rossini, is it?
No, I think it's Peer Gynt. I think.
But for that opening scene with the music, we actually got the score and sequenced the ink into the MIDI sequencers.
Mm-hmm. That was one of the big panning sequences, like wide pieces of art for the game.
Oh, the room shot? It was a double room?
Mm-hmm. And I noticed there's a poster with an L from Laverne and Shirley on that poster back there.
Here's one of our giant animation scenes.
How did you lip sync back then? Because we didn't have any like tool. Nowadays we use a tool for lip syncing. Do you just by hand?
I think we just timed it out like the old-fashioned timing sheet.
Now that was for the cinematics, but for in-game, wasn't it Eric Wilmunder?
I thought it just blah 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 chat.
I think the in-game was just on-off with audio on-off.
Yeah, there's no actual lip syncing for the majority of the game,
so it's
which is funny since I have gotten many compliments on the lip syncing for this game over the years.
Because it loops around, and every percentage of the time it's on, right?
Well, because I remember Eric.
Yeah, I think Eric designed some kind of an algorithm for making the lips move to the level of volume.
Yeah.
Right. If there are
of the
pauses
waveform. Of
in the audio, it stops moving the lips.
Yeah.
That's true.
Now these credits were done by Kyle Balda.
That's
You're
right.
saying entirely on his internship?
Yep.
So wait, did we not pay for these credits? Or did we pay for them?
You got paid, right?
I think so, yeah. He took time. This is Peter, the other Peter. We took time out of CalArts. He came and spent some time with us, and we gave him this intro as an internship, and he did a fabulous job.
Seems like a funny thing to do, like, hey, you're an intern, you've never done this before. Do you want to do the entire animated intro, the most...
But I remember when he did, when he finished something, he shared it with us. We were all blown away by it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
The most iconic signature piece. Can you hurry and finish that before you go back to school?
Set the entire
That's right.
tone for the look of our game, and
It was excellent.
it's awesome.
I would later learn that was the perfect piece to have Kyle work on because he was colorblind, as it turns out.
I didn't know that.
I saw him working on something else, and he had other people picking his colors for him.
Oh, interesting. There was another 3D artist we had there in B Building that was colorblind too, and it was one of those things where people were just kind of, have you noticed everything he does? The reds don't make sense or whatever. I couldn't remember whatever.
Oh, the cow. I always get really happy watching these credits. I like the stretchy cow neck.
That cow should have showed up again later somewhere.
Yeah.
Missed opportunity.
What if the cow had come on their journey with them? Everything would have been so different.
Well, here's the story explanation right now for why the cow doesn't come.
Because he's just tired.
Doesn't want to make
Like
the walk
I've been
up
to the
hill.
mansion before.
Now, this is the first fight I had with Peter McConnell. Do you remember this, Peter?
Yes, I was gonna.
You were gonna mention that?
If you were gonna remember it.
Because the opening cutscene was too long, and we always had a problem with too long opening cutscenes, and so we were like, let's split it in half and put an interactive sequence. So there's an interactive sequence that's about to start, but I seem to remember it was the wrong time of day for you, because it's nighttime outside. It started in the daytime with the mutation scene, then it became nighttime.
Right.
But then what happened? Then it turned into daytime at the end. That's what bothered you, because the music couldn't make that transition in your mind.
Yeah, well, I think mostly I was crabby because you know, we had to. The cutscenes and the interactivity required a bunch of programming in iMuse, and I'd finished it one way, and then you changed it to another, and so I think I came up with some sort of artistic argument that had to do with daylight like that, but
that's an important thing to learn running a project, to not change things after someone spent hours and hours making something.
Well, it was also an important thing to learn not to step way out of your bailiwick and tell the guy who's writing the scene how to write the scene.
Oh, there are bailiwicks all over the place in this game.
Bodies, vessels.
Chronojohns.
Yep.
Chronojohns.
This, by the way, is an amazing full-screen animation before it was possible to do full-screen.
And not actually animated. That's all. The background's all color cycling.
It's all color cycling.
A lost art in the world of.
I forgot about that.
Now that computers work like they should, you don't have to do that stuff anymore.
You know, if you look at Mark Ferrari's website, not that Mark Ferrari worked on this game, but he was the master of color cycling, and he has a whole website where he's done it in a more high-end way, like with higher res color cycling. He just kept perfecting that to higher and higher resolutions.
Yeah, that stuff was crazy. He was into it, and then I think Bill Eakin was the one that inherited the mantle from him when he left.
All the lava in Indy 4.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they said imitation diamond wasn't good enough. Uh-oh.
See, color cycling.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that was like
jumping.
2-3 frame animations.
And a little surf music for Hoagie. We always had a place for surf music in our games. The Bone Wagon theme.
Yep.
That's right.
I think that surf music was yours.
That was mine. Yeah, I did that last little sequence there.
Yeah, you know, the musically, this I believe was the last project that we all worked on. Certainly the last original title that we all worked on together, sort of equally as composers, where there was no lead composer, and we all pretty much
panicked and freaked out together.
Cheap mail order, Jewel.
Okay, am I right, or is this is finally the game starting? Like the game, all of that was intro.
Right, all that was intro.
The game has now finally begun. And then as soon as you walk off screen, we freeze again for another cutscene. Okay, now we're playing.
So the original cutscene was like 7 minutes
before we added that brief, tiny introduction to. We always were wrestling with that. I felt in adventure games, like you want to tell the story and set it up for, you know, the intro. But then you think of another, you know, before the intro, we should do this other little intro, and then you'd end up with all these like intros to the intros to the intros, and they get super long.
I feel like that's just because we were inexperienced writers.
No,
but some people like that. Some people like that you set the whole stage and then they're interactive, and some people are just clicking and they want to get to it.
Yeah, but we never respected those people, to be honest, who just click to get through it. The reality is you guys had a story to tell, and that's the way to set it up and get people invested in it so that when they actually get into the interactive part, they feel invested. And
were these cutscenes escapable back then? Did we?
Yes. But you'd be so confused if you just started this game.
Right.
And I do feel like we're asking the player to play a part in this story, and it's mean to make them wait so long before they can.
True, but at least they're being entertained.
But of course, it's a classic, full of mistakes, but a classic.
So Peter, one of the characteristics of this art is the exaggeration and the curved lines, like the door is curved.
Totally.
And when things are really exaggerated and cartoony, and they're curved as opposed to normally you would see them straight lines and things. Where did you get that? Do you remember how you developed that? Because that's one of the signatures, I think, of.
Yeah, I mean, that's just part of the visual language that I was trying to use, you know, and you're right, that was the goal, was to balance the two. And also, you know, I was trying to simplify, and the inspiration came from Chuck Jones's layout artist, Maurice Noble. So Maurice Noble, you know, if you watched his classic cartoons, designs on, you know, Duck Dodgers and What's Opera Doc, you know, you can kind of see that he totally exaggerated and made those beautiful graphic shapes. So that's what I was trying to do, was incorporate some of that into this game.
It makes the environment seem bigger maybe than they would otherwise. They kind of stretch like
there's kind of a
it
fisheye
stretches
effect.
up, fisheye effect almost up towards the ceiling, and it just seems more expansive, draws you in.
Oh, good.
I did actual math for how much money should be in that pile of quarters to make this thing run.
That's Dave. He would actually calculate how many to run for how many years? For 200 years?
$800,000 or something. Yeah, 200 years to the minute.
And I'm glad you did that, because someone else on the internet would have done it and said we used the wrong number if we didn't do that. He shot himself. And then the stick goes right through his brain, which would be fatal. Very disturbing.
It's true. They would never.
But then he's got a depressed sigh afterwards. So, you know, he's fine, even though he's still suicidal.
You notice the nice pink box, you know, the Chinese pink box that you get in Chinatown.
Is that for
That's
like
right
almond
there.
cookies? He's got like a little selection of. How sad can he be?
I just thought that was donuts.
Well, it's true about that theme, the suicide theme, or cigarettes for another matter. I think we used to have characters sometimes
Yeah,
lighten up and stuff.
there was no ESRB when we made this.
I remember when I was trying to figure out and come up with the style, you know, it was back in those days we didn't really have Google internet search stuff. So, you know, all we had were 2 books that I studied from, and that was a Bugs Bunny book, compilation kind of thing, and Chuck-a-Muck, which was Chuck Jones's bio book. And I remember to do research we had to use VHS tapes. And we watched all those classic Saturday morning cartoon stuff, and we would pause and look at, or for me, I was studying looking at these old cartoons, and except when you pause on a VHS, you always get the line.
Tracking.
Oh, it was awful.
Yeah.
But that was how I was studying and trying to come up with, you know, shapes and just study layout. And then, yeah, it worked out.
How did we?
I'm trying to remember how we did.
How we referred to it to score it, because we would have had to play the game.
I think what we did. Yeah, I'm trying to remember too.
Hold
I think
up
what
a video
we actually,
camera in front of the screen.
I think what we did was we got a save game made, and we would play it to the next, like, place where you could pause. Or, like we would. The next spacebar point or something like that, and then we would score it, and then we would make it so that the music, because the thing was that you couldn't rely on the sync, right? So we had to actually make the music interactive in a sense with the scene, so that it could, depending on how fast of a machine you had and how quickly therefore the scene would play, would the music actually hit the right hit points and then proceed correctly to the next hit point.
So we would have an accordion-like.
We basically had an accordion-like
at the end of
structure.
Each little section, it would
Yeah.
sort of pause, and then resume at the hit point, or jump to the hit point if the hit point was reached first.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think if we
would be only the fastest machines.
Right.
So now, CD games were just starting to be released on CD-ROM, and
The first,
for us it was
the talkie, first talkie.
First talkie, right?
Was this before Rebel Assault?
Was it before or around the
Because
same,
we
same
shipped
year?
two versions of this game. We shipped a floppy version and a CD-ROM.
And followed up
And
with
this
with
CD-ROM
our
was the
first
talkie, right?
Our first talkie.
The floppy version only had voice in the intro, and then it was all text.
And that was not the original plan to do voice at all.
No.
We were not going to do it, and while we were making the game,
Human voice was invented.
well, human voice was invented, and more and more people started to have CD-ROM
CD-ROMs.
drives in their home computer, to the point where Kelly Flock just came in one day and said, what do you say we delay the game a little
Everybody's
bit and we make
buying
a full voice
Myst.
talkie?
Yeah, thank you. Let's all thank you to Myst.
Although, was this pre-Myst?
No, I think, well, I mean, Myst was what sold all those CD-ROMs and Rebel Assault.
So when you guys write those multi-branching scripts, I guess you call
Dialogue
them,
trees?
Is that what you call them? Dialogue trees? Was it? Did you have to think in a certain mode, or how would you do it? And how would you notate it in Excel or something? Like, how would you map out the branches?
No, it was you would write it in code. We were programming the game at the same time.
You scum
so you
program
would
the
just-
dialogue as you wrote.
Oh my God!
You would literally say, here are the choices. If you pick this one, jump down there. If you pick this one, jump down there.
I don't know how Dave wrote it, but I just kind of improv it. Like, you'd write, I wouldn't think or plan too much about it, but okay, you just talk to him, and then what would be 4 funny lines on the screen, and then kind of explore one, explore the other, and maybe have other nodes that you can go to, and then I would start planning. Okay, now I've got myself into a mess. How do I get out of here?
Yeah,
And
it's kind of all about sets of lines. And it was great because one of the things that you run up against as a writer usually in other media is I get to this point and I have to make a decision about how things go. But here we can just leave that up to the player, and all you have to do is get to a point and go, well, what are all the interesting things I might want to do here or say here? And then you just put them all in.
So it's
Easy as
pre-editing.
And I remember you would always design a dead end, like where the train comes to the end of the line. Basically, it's like you say something and then he just keeps giving you the same answer, like, I wouldn't know about that. And then you try something else, I wouldn't know about that. It's like, okay, I guess I've exhausted this. It's sort of like almost like a stopgap or a safety net in a way, maybe. I don't know.
They always try to let the player know when they've exhausted the character. They're like, look, okay, you found it. You found all of the entertainment we put in this character. It's done.
Because people will explore as deep as you give them. It becomes a responsibility. Oh, I've got to see if there's something down there that I'm missing. So I have to. So you don't want to do.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to attention you have to wrestle with is like. You want to put a lot of, well, the player might go here, they might go here, they might choose this, might go choose, let's put interesting stuff in all those places. But then if you approach it in the wrong way, sometimes the player gets there and they're like, oh God, I've got to go through all of this stuff. And they feel like they need to find every nook and cranny of the dialogue. And you just put it in there so they'd have a variety of things to choose from, but they feel like it's a task list and they have to like find it all. And so you...
Or something's buried there that they missed.
Yeah.
Who's that? This is Ben's room, huh? He's into...
He's big into penguins. What is that date that's circled?
Yeah, I was just going to ask.
Is that your birthday? Your son's birthday?
That says January, right?
Probably says Zach really small.
That's my wife's birthday.
Is it?
Yeah.
Sneaky.
First or second? Because the car says Zach on the license plate.
Yeah, because Zach was born that year. So I snuck his name in and turned into a ritual. I now try to hide my kids' names in every project I work on.
They're in the bone pile in Grim Fandango, but I never could find it.
Yeah.
I just knew you told me they're in there.
And it's also in Full Throttle too.
Interesting.
But you can't see it. So it's for me, basically.
Well, I remember we would deliver a piece of music and of course it's comprised mostly of MIDI note events, which is just a tiny little piece of data within the MIDI stream. Note on, and it happens at this velocity on this channel to this instrument and whatever. And I would deliver a piece of music, and the programmer would turn to me and say, Clint, this is over 32K.
Yeah, it's huge.
32 kilobytes. 32 kilobytes. You got to cut this thing down.
Who do you think you are, Mozart?
Yeah. They said we can't take anything bigger for this scene than 24 kilobytes. So I'd go back and thin the percussion. I'd sometimes have to cut a whole section of the music out to get it down to 20.
Well, sometimes there was pushback, though, too, because we'd say, all right, look, 10%, we get 10%. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember the pushback.
Yeah.
I don't remember these technical discussions about the size of the music files.
Oh, yeah.
Literally, and I remember specifically 32K was often too big.
That's why the iMuse system got called the iMuse system, because it was originally called the sound drivers, and then everybody got all upset because drivers can't occupy the whole floppy disk or whatever it was that the system occupied.
Ding, 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 ding. This is that we talked about a little bit when Dave and I played through. But originally, you could play all three characters right away. Remember that?
Is that true?
Yeah, you could play all the characters from the very beginning, and we had our first pizza orgy where we tested the game out, and people were like, "Oh, there's so many options," and they were overwhelmed. So now we unlocked it, so you have to play as Bernard for a little while, and then you do something that makes it so you can play Hoagie, and then Vern's the last.
And what about the other three kids?
They got cut.
There were 3 other kids?
They were 3 other kids. Do you remember who they were?
No, I don't remember anything about 3
piece
other
of paper.
kids.
We have a piece of paper that has a picture of them.
Moonglow,
Chester,
Chester,
and Razor.
And Chester became...
Chester and Moonglow ring a bell.
Chester became Ned and Ted.
Wait, not Ned and Ted. Jed and...
Or whoever they were.
Jed and...
Ned and Jed.
Ned and Jed.
Okay.
Ned and Jed. And Moonglow just went away. Yeah. And Razor went away as well.
I mean, I stole the character design from Chester and said, I like that. I'll use that for these guys. And put them in a powdered wig.
Why do the work again?
Exactly.
So, Dave, are you going to take credit for the wash your car to make it rain puzzle?
I always feel like I need to both apologize for and defend this puzzle in this game because, I mean, there is a lesson here about how to design puzzles, because you always want to make sure that the audience has all of the information that they need in order to make the leap that's going to get them the puzzle solution. And in this case, like, I grew up with a father who told me that it was just common knowledge that when you washed your car, it made it rain. So I just assumed that everybody around the globe would understand that, and that we didn't really have to say much
We all found that to be acceptable.
about it.
I think we are like, yep,
A lot of people
that'd
have
be a good puzzle.
a lot of people have come back and complained about that over the years.
Well,
that was
but
probably fun.
when you do try to wash the Cadillac,
Right, there's a great hint. There's
there?
another
Okay.
car in
What
there.
does he say?
It says "wash me" right on there, and when you try to wash it, he says something like, "I don't want to do that because every time I wash my car, it makes it rain."
that I think my judgment is that is absolutely fair.
Hint is in there.
It's
and
right
if you
there.
were- if
It's
you
a
were
big
doing
old
the
sign.
exploration-
I like how this family, through time, just replaces each member with the exact same member. There's one mad scientist, there's one freaky son, and there's one red-haired lady. They all just give birth to someone who looks just like them? Or are they clones?
Or do the Eds grow up into Freds?
And they switch?
And they shrink.
Okay.
They shrink as they get old.
Blue tentacle. I forgot there's different colors.
Blue tentacle.
Which raises the question, purple tentacle went off and like, who did he mate with to create
Obviously.
blue?
Wait a second.
No, that would be blue and
Yeah, blue and red. His parents must have
Yeah.
been... But his brother is
Well, you know,
green.
it's like a dominant recessive gene kind of thing. You know, like it's if you have the blue eyes, but you could still have brown eyes. You could still have the blue-eyed gene. You could have the blue if you're purple. You know.
The reason for the way Day of the Tentacle looks is because of Monkey Island 2 and how it translated and how technology back then just mutilated my illustrations. And so for the next round, I knew to overcome that challenge was to simplify the backgrounds so then I could eliminate most of those floating pixels.
All the noise,
Right? All the noise. So it was a lot of work because once I scanned it in, I had to clean it all up. So I chose this very like paper cutout kind of simple backgrounds just to make it look like it was supposed to be this way, that it was supposed to be clean.
And didn't you also scan them in black and white and paint them in depaint? Like, I don't think you colorized them before you
No,
scanned them.
I did. These are all markers.
right?
These are all markers.
but didn't you pump the
I pumped up the palettes. Yeah, so out of
The wall is completely, like, it's one color of gray right back
it was
there.
all like 100 colors of gray, and I would just pick one of them to represent that wall.
Oh, so I always tell
I
people you
cleaned it
scanned
all
them in
up.
black and white.
Nope.
That's a big
It
lie.
was all.
That's a big lie. Everybody, that's a big lie.
So this is all markers. Yeah.
And I don't want to be
And I had to
critical,
clean it
Peter,
up.
but I have a feeling that some of your vanishing points don't line up.
Yeah, and that again, thank you. Again, that was a challenge for me because I love perspective and proper perspective, and so for this game, definitely learning how to let go and go outside my comfort zone. Right, how to be wrong on purpose.
It's like you
was
love
a challenge
perspective
for
so
me.
much, there's 5 different
Oh,
perspectives.
I was fighting myself every day just doing this, but you know, I knew, in the end, it was going to be okay because that was what we chose to do together.
Did you do all the backgrounds yourself? Did you have any secondary help?
No secondary help on this one. It was challenging because it was. I remember to accomplish the assignments on time. I remember I had to do the roughs in a day, and then walk it across the parking lot. Have you guys check in, and then I did the next day I did a marker illustration of it, and then the following day was to scan it and then fix the illustration after it was scanned. So I try to get a room done like every 4 days just to stay on schedule.
The Orgies, they predated me and you being in the company. They used to invite all their friends and family over and play the game all night long and get a whole bunch of pizza. And an orgy was involved. The orgy part stopped before we came.
I think they stopped doing that,
Yeah.
because...
Those were fun, the pizza orgies, because we were there anyway. We weren't going anywhere.
We weren't big on the whole work-life balance thing back then.
Yeah, and boy, the variety. I remember it was like 10 or 12 different types of pizzas, and each was stacked 4 high, and And there's so much pizza and beer as well. We used to have beer and walk around from system to system and watch people playing the game and get into it. And it was a fun thing.
I just remember it probably would have been better to be behind that one-way glass because I just would hover and want to
Give hints.
No, go. Oh,
It's hard not to give hints.
I love being able to ask people questions, though. That was always like the best part of the experience. Is like,
what are you trying to do?
Yeah, what are you trying to do right now? And they would explain it and go,
that's not in our game.
That's a good idea. We should put that in.
Now, you notice the tentacle chairs in the foreground there.
What is that?
Is that what those are?
Mm-hmm.
But what's the thing that looks like a plug going into the desk?
Yeah.
Is that like a power thing or is that a chair?
A mouse.
They look like toilets, tentacle chairs.
That's right.
That's not my
Oh, here's how the guys walk. Hey, do you guys all want to walk over together? Everybody turn to face the back and we'll sidestep.
Yeah, that must have been, there's no way in hell we're going to animate each guy stuck
Well, I
to
mean,
the
we
floor.
had a walk cycle, so we could, but we couldn't have that many actors in one room,
yeah.
probably.
So it's one actor?
It's got to be, yeah, that's just one entity.
One clump.
I would have just cut. Nowadays, I think I would have just cut and had them be over there. Although it is kind of funny when they do that. But it's weird that they all turn to face the side and then sidestep.
There's no suction-y noise.
Yeah,
be like-
everyone else walks with a big jump.
These guys have greased up the floor.
He's a mummy in a disco suit with gigantic horse teeth.
That was
Spaghetti.
just the weirdest character to have to design.
What are you talking about? There's so many ideas to work with. Spaghetti.
All the other characters made sense. That one.
It's funny how the tentacles prefer beehive hairdos because they're pointy on top, like tentacles are.
Was there a logic to that?
I
Did you
just,
guys
I
figure that
never
out?
thought about that until this moment. But obviously, you artist had that all planned. You're like, who would the tentacles admire most? They'd someone with a pointy head.
Hey, look, a skunk.
That is a beautiful shot.
Nice, full
Look
screen
at that
animation.
color cycling back there.
Wow. 3 frames.
Pew, pew, pew.
That was state of the art. Right? Nobody had full screen animation in those days. And I think, what was the deal? It was like 30%, 20% of the screen, of the pixels on the screen could move at once, no more than that. Yeah. So I took that whole shot and had to draw the characters and figure out what was the extreme of the eyes popping out and then measure how much how much I'd have to move
Really?
to make that work. Yeah, it's like, okay, I can jiggle the cheeks this much and I can bulge the eyes that much and I can, the tongue, it was all the tongues because those were the things that were moving the most. But I think what I did on those was just extremes, like there was no in between. So, but that was the biggest pixel difference, was like the end of the tongue was way down here and then it was way up there. So half the tongue was different.
There's a Chan joke there. You suck. The vacuum cleaner is called You Suck. Peter.
I recall this was my least favorite.
This is your least favorite room?
Yeah, I remember I started to burn out, and I just remember I struggled with just the background with that one.
Was that one of the last ones you did, you mean?
Probably.
And was that directed at one of us? You
No,
Suck? Was that
no.
for me?
No, I was
or
just,
Dave?
I just
Oh,
remembered
Dave.
it's not very interesting, that's all.
I wonder if that was late in production because
Yeah.
I was just watching the whole vacuum cleaner thing and I remember I had this totally elaborate thing that she was going to do some weird sword fight thing and then something much bigger with the sucking the hamster and the vacuum cleaner, and then it ended up being like a 2-frame and go because it was like, I don't have time for this anymore.
Pete, the thing that I remember with you was always you would do the sketch for the room and you would bring it to us and you would have put in all these amazing details of all this
right.
cool stuff, and we would always look and we would go, okay, this is great, but you have to take out the ladder
Yeah,
and the shovel and
Right.
all the things that an adventure game player will want to
Right,
pick up and
right,
take.
right.
And
Oh, that's
like
nice.
probably by the end of the game, you're just, all right, I'm going to put nothing in here.
But
That'll show them.
Yeah, I mean, that all the interesting stuff turned into the silhouettes in the foreground where you can't touch it. Eventually, I just
It's a little
used...
frustrating too.
yeah.
but-
And
I know.
those are still interesting that you want.
Look at this amazing fisheye lens effect you guys did. How did you achieve? You must have used some sort of high-end warping software. And I remember that monitor used to say phony on it. I think when Peter drew it, it said F-O-N-Y. Yes. But we had to take that out, I guess.
That VHS
For
tape.
legal reasons, which means you'll have to edit the comments out of this too.
We're not going to be saying this.
On Monkey 2, and I had learned to animate on that project. It's like, you're an artist, we need an animator. I'd never animated.
You didn't know how to animate?
No, I just, they gave us the Muybridge frame-by-frame book. The first thing I worked on was the dog with the keys in his mouth.
That's crazy. I remember you coming on as an animator. We should have checked out references.
No, that was the deal. The awesome artists like Peter and Steve were the ones that got to paint the backgrounds. And you know, the second tier people like me, you're animators. Didn't matter if you'd ever animated. So they gave me the Muybridge book, and it had walking horses and dogs and whatever. I'm like, all right, I'll go figure it out. And then did a few of those things on Monkey. And then at that point, then I'm like, of course, I can do everything now. What am I, you know?
But see, that
awesome.
was the same with me. I mean, I didn't have proper training either when I came on. And then, because I was just, you know, studied illustration, but I didn't come from a film or a game background, and so I didn't know anything about layout. But coming in, and then there's Steve Purcell in the room, right? And then I had no knowledge of comic book artists at the time either, you know? And so having all, like Ken Macklin and having these guys around, Ian McKeag would just walk in and out of there, and I was like in awe of these people. And I thought, oh my God.
I talked to people about, like, that felt like grad school for me.
Yeah.
Because I had been thinking of going to grad school. And then I get this job, and like, I get paid to do it, and I get to learn from these guys.
Exactly.
That's great.
So when it came time to hand the script over, because when you wrote that dialogue for the floppy version, you didn't know or plan for those lines to go in front of live actors, in front of a microphone.
Not, especially not this, like the first game, no.
So how was that all done? Exported? But I bet you Eric Wilmunder was
Yeah, I
involved
think
in that.
Eric went and wrote a script that would go through and would rip it out and replace it with a code, and export a script for the voice department to take. Nowadays we start with the voice database, so we'll write something and then it'll go in the database first, and then the programs will pull from the database to implement the dialogue.
Notice there's a face on that machine back there.
Oh, that is a special Chan thing. Faces on everything.
Oh, with the teeth on the bottom.
Faces on and the big red clown nose.
It's like Laverne eyes, one bigger than the other.
Oh,
Is this the same audio cue as the Purple Tentacle?
yes.
I remember
one sound file.
working on that animation for like 2 weeks.
Damn good coffee. Is that a Twin Peaks reference? Was Twin Peaks? Did we cover this before?
Twin Peaks. Yep.
Were we actively thinking about Twin Peaks when we wrote that, I wonder?
Probably. I remember we would go to Ron Gilbert's apartment and watch Twin Peaks
yeah.
at around this time.
That's true. The only thing that bothered me was when that whole sequence was over, when we went back to the in-game animation, Dr. Fred moved up a pixel. Oh, that stuff drives me crazy. Oh, I'm going to think about that tonight.
Can you fix that in a special edition?
He's a very satisfying hand-wringing for just a few pixels. Metal Mel! Who is Metal Mel, Peter? Metal Mel. I don't know. Metal Mel! He predicted all the heavy metal stuff we'd do in games later.
Notice the
Now we can go home. Well, kiddies, it's been more fun than a jumpsuit full of wheeze. Please stop.
I'm getting...
Help us, Doc.
So I didn't have enough pixels to actually show, like, there's
That's
way
the
too much.
genius of the screen.
There's way too much hoagie. Like, if you look at that X-ray, basically Bernard is piggybacking on Laverne. You can see Bernard's feet.
Oh, those are Laverne's feet.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right.
But hoagie is just like rib cage and nothing else. There's no room for it.
Look how involved this scene is. Like, there's all these different gags for how they all get. Like, it takes. It's all.
That's your reward for
How many
finishing
days
this
did it
entire
take
game.
to do that animation?
That was the funnest one.
Look how evil Laverne is.
I think because that had a lot of visual gags that were easy to do. Like the X-ray thing is a drawing, and then the stretching the shirt and snapping it, the action's quick. Like the drawings that it took to do the stretch was nothing. And I think it's her regular walk cycle maybe just tweaked. And then you let it go and shoots off screen in like 1 or 2 frames.
But that was fun. I often refer to it as the last fun time I had making a game, just because we didn't have 3D and we didn't have to worry about voice during. We didn't have to lock our scripts early, so we could do localization and translation. So it felt easier. Even though we had a brief crunch mode because we'd be like, oh, the dialogue has to be done in a month, and you and I stayed there to do that. I don't remember the team really having a crunch mode like we did on Monkey 2 or anything. Like Monkey 2 was like a really...
And you look at like Throttle, we thought, we're going to make this crazy, huge animated thing. And we had like one more animator than we had on this. And that got really bad at the end.
Games were
Whereas
simpler
this, there was no way to...
back then.
Didn't have enough rope to hang ourselves.
I did love that ability to write all the way up to the very... Because
Yeah, we changed Monkey Island dialogue like the day before we shipped, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Which is crazy. Of course, everyone's happier now that we're locking that earlier.
And the scum system, like I feel like we touched on that briefly earlier, we didn't really say much about it, was like great to work in because it was like you just had a little puppet theater and all the things that you wanted to do to make drama were really easy. Like, oh, have the characters walk around and play animations and say lines, and you didn't have to do any programming really behind any of that. It was all just one line to make any of those things happen. So you could just focus on, let's make a cool thing with all these little assets that we've got.